Good evening. I'd like to call the Marlborough School Committee meeting to order at 7:32. We've all risen to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mine's on. Yep. Do you want to make a motion? Mrs. Hennessy.
Thank you. So I would like to make a motion that we add an agenda item. Ms. Hadley's going to be presenting.
For the BPA State Leadership Conference.
Thank you. For the BPA State Conference. So if we might be able to vote on having that added to the agenda for tonight, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion's been made, and I will second to add the BPA. Should we wait until 9, or do you want to move it up so you don't have to stay too long?
If you want to move it up to presentation.
Okay, why don't we do that? So we'll add it to the agenda at the presentation. And Mrs. Haley. Oh, sorry. We have to vote first. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. Okay, Mrs. Haley, you're on.
As they're coming up to...
Rachel DiGenato, who is president of BPA.
Okay.
Thank you. So we're here to request permission to take students to the State Leadership Conference. This year it's going to be a hybrid model, so it's only a one-day trip. There's no staying over in hotel rooms.
Is the green button on?
Oop.
Thank you.
Try that again.
Okay, thank you.
We'll start over. Do over.
I'm batting 1,000. Okay, Jane Haley, this is Rachel DiGenato. She's student president of the BPA chapter, Marlborough. And we're here to request permission for a field trip for March 5th. And it's a hybrid model this year. There won't be any staying over, no hotel rooms, nothing like that. So on February 28th, that's a Monday through Thursday, I will be staying after school, and the students will be doing computerized and written events in the classroom, so that when they get to the conference on that Saturday, they'll be doing their judged events. And then, so it'll be an all-day, 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m., 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's parent drop-off and parent pickup, so we won't be going in a bus or anything with everybody on the same. Everyone's wearing a mask. And so the judged events will be on Saturday, and we'll also have some workshops that day. And then on Sunday will be, through Zoom, will be the all the awards, the award session. So it'll be from February 28th through March 6th. But the only thing that we're asking permission for is if we could please go to the Sheridan. That's where it is. And again, it's parent drop-off and parent pickup. It's 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
I'm sorry, is it the Sheridan in Framingham?
Yeah,
where
even
it
though it was
always
auctioned off.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to know? Yeah, incredibly. It was auctioned off, and we thought we'd never be back there again. But they have changed their business model. So they are still... had we been able to stay there, had they decided to do that, they were still, it's still a hotel, so.
Right. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Mrs. Hennessy.
Thank you. Just one clarification. So relative to like the mask wearing, or is that going to be following rules for everyone that's attending? Only because I know in some cases, you know, events that are not at a school sometimes have gone back to different locales depending upon Board of Health and things like that. So
No, everyone who's attending the leadership conference will be masked.
okay, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
And also, I mean, you said if it's parent pickup, so there's no spectators. The only people that will actually be there are the students participating and judges.
And the
that sort of
judges,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Excellent.
Carries.
Best of luck.
Thank you
Okay,
very
yay.
much.
And the other item that you told me about, you'll come back later
I
about
will,
that?
thank you for this. Yes,
Okay.
we're hoping that by May, that it's possible that we travel to nationals, and that is in Texas. So we're hoping that things will turn around by then, and we'll be back here in early April to see how things are going, and you can make the decision then.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for all your time, and thank you for adding us to the agenda. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for coming. Okay, so back to the agenda, no other presentations, communications. Mr. Bergeron.
Thank you. I want to update the committee on the COVID data for the city and the schools. As of the 6th, when I sent you the report, we currently had, as of that time, we had 181 cases. I did just now look, and we're at 175, so we're pretty stable in terms of the number of cases we have. Also looking at the city, at the time that I had reported, there were 625 cases. It went as high as I think 1,032, and then it has come down a little bit from then. So that obviously continues to be concerning. And then looking at the state data, obviously virtually every metric was up. Testing percentage, cases, hospitalizations across the board. The silver lining, if I will, this evening when I logged on to the MWRA, the Water Resources Authority, and the wastewater data from the north and the south that feed into, I think it's Deer Island in Boston, both had sharp declines over the past couple days. So I'm not a scientist. I'm just looking at this and looking for some good information. This seems to be pretty positive information. So if there's any silver lining, I'll tell you that. And it looks like it's declining just as sharply as it increased, which is a good thing. For number 2, I did hold that space so I could talk about what I anticipated would be Commissioner's decision on masking. And the Commissioner did move the mandate on masking till February 28th. So I had sent, as an FYI to the committee, a separate message with the Commissioner's letter where he spoke about his desire to maintain the mask mandate till February 28th. So I just wanted to update you on that. For my third item, I just want to talk about the privacy screen at the ECC playground. So in late December, I met with Annie Burnaby and Amy Sinney. She's the president of the Home and School Organization. Amy had requested a grant from MEF to fund a privacy screen for the ECC playground fencing, and we discussed the potential for the district to fund this project since it could not be funded at the time through MEF. I see this as a desirable upgrade to the playground fencing Bolton Street, and it also can display student artwork while operating as a privacy screen. I asked Andrew and Amy to bring forward a mocked-up version for the project, and I'm confident the district can fund the project with an estimated cost of about $6,500. Thank you to Vice Chair Michelle Bodenheimer for bringing this to my attention as a potential project for the district to fund through the original application to the Marlborough Education Foundation. My fourth item, attendance summary and some thoughts I'd have on the attendance as an accountability measure. I rarely do this, so I'm stepping out a little bit, but I'll warn you now, so I'm going to be preaching a little bit. So throughout this week, and also this week that we're in right now, our staff attendance has been between, I'd say this week, 85 and 90%, and our student attendance was between 75 and 80%. For the 2-week period, we saw sick calls daily from students and staff. We encouraged families to keep symptomatic students home and encouraged staff members to come get rapid tests before school started. This is the first time I'll address the committee to openly criticize our accountability system for the state. In this case, I'm going to advocate for the school committee to use their resources and voice to ask for a waiver for this school year on this one accountability area. Attendance as an accountability measure for schools in this environment unreasonably punishes all districts for trying to remain open for students during a pandemic. I do believe the Commissioner is sympathetic to this issue and is working with the United States DOE to request relief in this area. So I really do that, but I felt like I had to. In closing, I'd like to thank the committee for their understanding as I've given my resignation. My focus is on the next steps to support the school committee and provide as smooth a transition to the next superintendent as I can. Apologize for getting emotional, but you guys have been wonderful to me, and I want to thank you for that. As I make my next move, I want to do for you guys what you did for me, and what you did for me when Maureen was leaving as superintendent. You gave me such a great runway to be successful in this job. And I really want to thank you for that, but I want to do the same thing for you. And I just want to say, I love the teachers, I love the staff. I'm sorry that I'm leaving, but this is in the best interest for me and my family, and I thank you for that. So that's my report for tonight. Thank you. I should have waited to talk about the wastewater data to the end. As my leadership team knows, they know I'm so excited to look at the data every day. I should have left that for the end. But I do thank you very much for all your understanding and your kind words. And I do appreciate them and take them to heart. Thank you.
I know. Do we need to take a minute to regroup?
We take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, or how about a 2-minute recess?
How about 2-minute recess?
Okay.
A motion to a recess.
Yeah, we're gonna take a 2-minute recess.
Call the school committee back into session. Mr. Superintendent, I actually have a question regarding the accountability measures. We are not alone in this, obviously.
No,
Green button.
Oh,
Sorry.
I wouldn't from my
I'll repeat
meetings.
the question
Oh, sorry.
just because
Yeah.
mine was off. I'm asking about the accountability data and the fact that we're not alone in this. This is a worldwide problem, and the rest of the country is dealing with this as well. So what, if anything, is the commissioner saying about it?
So far in the meetings that I've been in, he has understood the issue being brought forward by superintendents. I think he understands and is sympathetic towards what we're doing. I believe there's a multi-step process to get a waiver for some of the accountability system that we have in Massachusetts. So I do believe we're being heard. I'm asking the voice because I know that several members are active with MASC. I think that we should all come at this together, and I think the Superintendent Association has definitely made their feelings felt about the using attendance this year as an accountability metric, especially when we're asking parents to make really tough choices and actually, if your kids are symptomatic and they have symptoms, to actually keep them home. And families are now experiencing where they have had COVID in their household more than once.
Right.
And I think when you look at that, there's a potential for kids to be considered chronically absent who have never been chronically absent in their entire school history, and also for schools to be considered to have a poor attendance record that have never had poor attendance records before. So I think when we look at it from that perspective, I think everyone continuing to say that this is just not right. This doesn't make sense.
Right.
So for this year, I really feel like they should waive the attendance as an accountability feature.
Agreed. So, you know, I mean, we can do a declaration, you know, we can send a letter to the commissioner on behalf of, you know, our school committee, for sure. And as you stated, you know, we have some involvement with MASC, and I would be happy to push my colleagues on the board to do something if that's not already. My guess is it's probably already in the works.
I'm sure they are, but adding our
certainly
voice to
would
it could be
support.
helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So, Madam Secretary, would you how would you feel about starting the draft? We can maybe even do a Google Doc and help to draft that. Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you. I guess I would request that not only would we try and address something directly to the commissioner, but I would also request that our letter also head to MASC like in a formal way to let, formally put it out there. But I would also say we've had such good rapport and support with our politicians that I feel like this is something, to your point, it's bigger. It's not just here, and I feel like we could reach out to Carmine, Danielle, and Jamie to, at minimum, make sure to bring it to their attention in a formal written way. And so I guess my request would be that the letter would be to the commissioner, but that we make sure that we are sending it copy-wise to MASC and the representatives to make sure that everybody's on the same page with our feelings and our concerns. So, thank you.
Sounds good. Okay. You're complete, so why don't we move on to Mrs. Murphy?
Yeah. Thank you. Just wanted to update about the January 18th Professional Development Day. So Tuesday, January 18th is a full day professional development day for all staff. Once again, approximately 70 staff members will participate in either the first or the second full day of safety care training. But most staff will spend the morning in school-based teams continuing to practice the strategies we learned in November on how to respond to microaggressions. As a reminder, we are defining microaggressions as a comment or action that unconsciously or unintentionally expresses a prejudiced attitude towards a member of a marginalized group, for example, race, gender, sexual orientation. This training is not curriculum focused. I've had some questions about that, so I just want to clarify we're not talking about curriculum. Teachers will be practicing how they will listen to these comments, and then interrupt with statements such as, "Wait, what did you mean by that?" So the unintended and unintentional statements do not negatively impact our students. Our goal is that all students in Marlborough are educated in a safe and supported environment. We are focused on creating positive relationships throughout our community. Additionally, in the afternoon, MEA members will register for individual choice sessions. I attached the MEA catalog to my report. I'm going to correct this. I said registration for choice sessions will open tomorrow at 6:15 a.m. NBA members. We've worked really hard to make that an exciting time. It will be 6:15. I'll start sharing them all out. So.
I have to reset my alarm.
Yeah. So, any questions?
So I hate to say this, but I didn't get to jump in to ask some questions that I had in the
Okay.
superintendent's report. So is it
All right,
okay if
let's finish Mary,
Okay.
and then we'll go back and
That's
get
why
ask
I
your
wanted to
questions.
ask, because, sorry, Mary, nothing against.
Any questions for Mary? If someone who was not an MAA member was interested, perhaps, in one of the ones that is on Zoom,
So there are some selected ones. Assistant Superintendent O'Brien and I are trying to organize more choice sessions for the sessions that we have openings for some of our support staff. We also, I did not include it, but we have a teacher that is going to be doing a technology-based training and sent out a survey this week to all paraeducators to try to identify the skills and trainings that they need. So we are attempting to. It's not going to be the whole catalog, but some of them will be
Yeah.
available.
okay, great. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Hennessy for the superintendent.
Sorry.
No worries.
So I guess two things. When the information was put out from the commissioner relative to the masking extension, I just was interested because obviously with the athletics that were happening in Midwalk area, we also then removed a portion of spectators. And I'm just curious, has there been any more discussion that you're aware of about continuing with having the parents or immediate family still there? Are we going to be taking a look at numbers? Like, I just wasn't quite sure where that is standing. And then in consideration of this information, which was a change from what was going on.
So I think for the short time we're looking at this, we asked for only family members, immediate family members, to be able to go to athletic contests. My hope is, seeing some of the data I'm seeing today, we're about a week out from seeing those cases start to really drop. I'd like to get back to some level of normalcy with spectators coming in. As far as I've heard, everything I've heard, spectators have been great in terms of wearing masks and following the rules and doing everything we need to do. So I don't really see too much of an issue in that. I think we just took a very short-term approach to it. I will talk to Jeff and Dan and ask them their feelings on it too. But we haven't seen anything that would lead us to believe we should be doing that for much longer. If that's kind of my feeling on it right now, but I do want to talk to Jeff and Dan about how they're doing.
Thank you. I just was curious. I mean, I have to say personally, I felt very good about what you all decided, and collectively as we were following that situation, just based upon where our numbers were going. Because I think all of us want to continue to allow the athletes to participate in the activities. So to me, that's kind of key. And that's just me on a personal basis. So I appreciate that. I guess we'll just see as we kind of go. And then I also wanted to say, I love the idea about the privacy screening. So thank you very much for bringing that, forward to the superintendent from your exposure with MEF. And I love the idea. It's a great way to kind of, have a special face on ECC outside with the playground and then have the artwork on it. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
And just to follow up on that, in the conversation that we had, there's no special permitting or city approvals or anything that need to take place?
Not that I know of. I think realistically what we're looking at is their panels that you would put on the fencing.
Yeah.
And I think we're allowed to display our student artwork. I don't see anything that would prevent us displaying student artwork. I think it's a great opportunity, and I encouraged both Andy and Amy to work with Julie Baker because we've done so many great things with like the art show and everything like that. I know we have the artwork. That's not the question.
Oh, no.
It's how do we make it look good and presentable and really something that could be nice for the community.
Yeah.
So I don't see anything in that right now, but I'm sure if there is, I'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, and we know from the art show that they did at the Walker Building, I mean, they were able to digitize everything and put them on signs, and they looked great. So, yeah, excellent. Any other questions for the superintendent? Seeing none, Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you. Over the winter break, DESE and DPH had released updated guidance on school COVID procedures based on recent changes from the CDC. In short, DESE and DPH have adopted most of the CDC guidance effective immediately. The summary of the key highlights of the changes are that the duration of the number of days of isolation for individuals who test positive is reduced from 10 down to 5 if they've been without a fever for 24 hours and there's improvement in their other symptoms. Individuals must mask for 5 additional days while around others. Also, the duration of the test and stay is reduced from 7 to 5 days from exposure. And the quarantine for close contacts that are not participating in test and stay is reduced from 7 days to 5 days in our protocols. At this time, it is provided in the updated DPH DESE protocols for responding to COVID-19 scenarios. Fully vaccinated is still defined as 2 weeks following the completion of the Pfizer or Moderna series, or 2 weeks following a single dose of the J&J vaccine, which is different from the CDC guidance where they've defined it as fully vaccinated, includes the booster shot if it's been greater than 6 months for the Moderna and the Pfizer and greater than 2 months for the J&J. So for the DESE and for schools, we are not having that, the booster is part of the equation for test and stay and for quarantine. The district is also in the process of procuring 15,000 take-home rapid antigen tests from the state contract to be used by staff and students. This would enable easy access for individuals who test positive to be able to conduct a home test on day 5 of isolation, which is recommended but not required. If an individual does test positive with the rapid antigen test on day 5, then he or she would continue to isolate for the remaining 5 days versus being able to come out of isolation and mask for the remaining 5 days. The good news is I just had received an email from the company that we had ordered from, and our tests are scheduled to be shipped out tomorrow from New York and estimated to arrive in 1 to 3 business days. So either by the end of this week or early next week, we should have those in hand.
Great. I have a couple of questions. One is, how would families get that test? Somebody would come to the school, a nurse would give it to them, and then they'd go home?
Yes.
Home and take it?
Our expectation is that either if the student is going home and being sent home because they're positive, we would send it home with them right there, would be the ideal situation. If it's a student that tests positive, say at home, and now they're isolated, I think we would try to do a drive-by, swing by, and be able to hand that off to the parent.
Okay, great. Is it possible to put this information, and the visual chart, the blue chart that you gave, I think was really helpful, on the website?
It is on the website, okay. In English, Spanish, and Portuguese. It is on the front page, and we have it posted in a couple different places. I think also like the health page as well. And all of the schools received them as well, and they were going to push those out to families as well so that they had them, and to staff.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Okay, acceptance of the December 14th minutes.
Motion to approve?
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. Public participation. Public participation.
Seeing none, action items, acceptance of donations and gifts. Hannaford Supermarket to the Marlborough High School, $525 and $1,000.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. Commonwealth of Massachusetts to the Marlborough Public Schools, $8,493.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Discussion. I actually had a question about this one. This is a grant for a pilot project for teacher diversification. Can somebody maybe talk a little bit more to that? Is that what that program's about?
This is a grant that Patty Brown wrote, and the idea, there's a team of us. We just met earlier today. We've been working on a regular basis. There's a high school teacher, elementary principal, Calliope Pantazopoulos is on it as well. Assistant Superintendent O'Brien and myself. And our goal is to recruit a more diverse workforce. But the grant is designed to, our focus is working on programs at the high school to identify students that potentially attract for them to stay with us and come back as teachers. So there is a proposal to do some QCC courses. We've been talking about this be the opportunity to start the early childhood track. So that is the goal, to really focus on expanding our workforce.
Along the lines of this, actually, that's not really appropriate for this item. I have another question that segues off of that, but I will ask it during my time to speak afterwards. Let me write myself a note. Okay, all in favor? Of the motion to accept the $8,493 from the Commonwealth. Thank you. Warren Home Inspections for the Kane Elementary School, $500.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Oop. Reports of subcommittees. Any subcommittees?
Nope.
Seeing none. Members Forum. Mrs. Matthews.
I'll start with, I have reviewed the warrant, but I have asked Mrs. Ryan to sign the warrant as I am on the warrant.
I signed the warrant.
Thank you. What a team, what a team. Thank you. Our vendors will be very happy. Did you have anything else you'd like to? Not that. Okay. Any other members? Mrs. Hennessy.
We actually had an MIA sports medicine meeting just yesterday. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. And really there's not any major changes, but I guess I did want to bring up to everyone that there definitely has been a lot of conversation amongst athletic directors, athletic trainers, superintendents, and principals specifically at the high school level, because masking is tough to keep everyone on the same page. Especially, we were discussing when there are events that are taking place off school sites. And so we had some discussions about that, and there was not really a set resolution about it, but I guess I wanted to just put it out there that is a struggle that many folks are facing, some pushback, because obviously there are some events going on for athletics that are not school related and don't necessarily have the same masking situations. So it is something that's across others, you know. And another thing that we were trying to have some discussions about, and there was, I guess, 2 links that I did forward to the superintendent after our meeting relative to the new information pushed out by DPH and the CDC relative to the change about the 5-day situation, because from an athletic standpoint, there is a lot of concern about athletes potentially coming back, trying to play, if you will, almost like too soon. So I do think that that's something which, you know, I'm sure that Jeff is probably having conversations with Dr. Riley about, and hopefully you as well, Mike. But I just think that we do have to be concerned about the health and well-being of, you know, not only our own athletes, but for the coaching staff, and as well thinking about the athletes' participation in going to other locations as well. Because while the CDC has pulled back on bringing them in for the 5 days masking, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is going to be in a healthy state relative to participation at an athletic event. So I just, you know, we didn't come up with something specific like there was going to be a mandate put out, but I do want to create awareness because I think that that's something that, as we've all seen in our own personal lives, COVID has affected all of us in different ways, and some people are having a tougher time recuperating than others. So I think we need to be extra cautious, if you will, with some of the athletes coming in, because everyone's had a different amount of activity going on. So wanted to make you all aware of that. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of things. One, the question that I was going to ask, it's not really a question, but I was talking with a parent who has a daughter at the high school who has an interest in becoming a gym teacher. And somehow or another, she is doing like an internship at the Good Now School, helping out in gym classes, solidifying her decision to study phys ed in early childhood, whatever, in college. I just wanted to put that out there. And is this something, like, what, can somebody?
It's a continuation of what we did last year as well. And this year they're formalizing it a little bit better. And we are having students going to be in our elementary schools, similar to what we did last year. If you remember, we had some of our seniors who were in good academic standing. They came down, I believe. Am I right, Miss Berry? Did you have a student last year? I think I thought so. And we're going to be continuing that program this year.
Well, my class from last year is still asking if she's ever coming back.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I have a group in a 4th grade class, and they're getting student teacher next week, and the 4 or 5 from my room said, "Oh my gosh, Miss Erin's coming back to us."
That's awesome.
It's a great program. We're excited to continue with it, and this is exactly what we want to do. You have someone who has an interest in something, we're going to hook them up with one of the talented professionals in our schools, and just try to see if we can make that flourish. Like that's what we want. So.
It has absolutely sealed the deal. And she's a senior, and she had a study hall at the end of the day anyways. So instead of a study hall, she goes to Good Now, and she helps out teaching in the classroom. It's like amazing. It's great. So wonderful. It's great. There's so many things like that I feel like the community doesn't know. Because unless you have a student in the classroom that reaps that benefit, or a student, you know, who's doing there's so many amazing things going on. So, okay. A question just to the committee, if anyone has any topics that they would like to hear from our students. Miss Klein from the high school, who oversees the SAC kids. I had an exchange with her, and she asked if there were any topics that people were interested in hearing about that we could send to the students, who will be back at the next meeting. Yes, or next month? Maybe next month. Coming up.
the next time they come.
You can think about it and get back to me. You don't have to.
Don't mean to put anybody on the spot, so just let me know and I'll pass that along. Along the same lines, MASC periodically does a kind of workshop for student reps. They are doing it again this year, and lucky for us, they've decided to do it in Marlborough. So that is going to be on January 30th. They polled a bunch of student reps around the state, and the students chose to do it on a Sunday so that it wouldn't interfere with their athletics or other activities that they do on Saturdays. So it's actually happening here in Marlborough on the 30th, and I'll be there and will be part of that orientation for them. So our students have been apprised of that. Okay, I think that's my list. At risk of setting everybody off into tears again, the superintendent's decision took me, I'm not speaking for anyone else, certainly by surprise and disappointment. And, as much as I want to 100% support you in your decision, it pains me to do so. But we will endure, and we will miss you, and you will be here through the year, and we will take you up on every ounce that we can squeeze out of you before you leave us. And, it is what it is. And thank you for your heartfelt words and your continued partnership with us to keep MPS on track. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I say something?
Sure.
Please.
Absolutely.
So this week I'm bitter about your decision, but I will go back to sadness because I know the feedback and messages I got last week after your announcement, you did put everybody in a sense of shock. But also one of the biggest things I heard from people was that we're very fortunate and continue to be fortunate to have you at the helm during this pandemic. Because you have always seen us first as humans, not as teachers or staff members. That, and we appreciate that you have that kindness and humane side of you, that you know that we have lives outside of the classrooms and the school buildings, and that your hands were tied throughout this. And even though some days were tough and some discussions were tough to have, you were always willing to have them. And listen, so that is very much appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other members?
Yeah, so I will try and not cry here, but yeah. One of the hardest phone calls to ever get. And I think it's because of what Eileen is actually saying. Mike, you've been a really collaborative leader, and I think that was one of those skills that we felt like we saw from you, but then we really felt it when we had to work alongside of you as best as we could through kind of a lot of unknowns. And I think that's, for me, going to be one of the hardest, right? Is you want to have someone who's leading, but who is also open to working with others, seeing people's assets, understanding their deficits, trying to build people up. And I think that's been, for me, when I really have some retrospect where I was in that better stage, up front, but trying to really have some retrospect, it's been wonderful to have to do that, but be okay about doing that. Sitting on phone calls to make decisions about things we would have never envisioned that we were going to have to figure out. and knowing that each and every time we were trying to do it, it was because we cared and you cared and you wanted to get it right as best as you could. Having that kind of a North Star is very helpful. And even if we didn't always get the solution 100%, we knew that the approach was there to do that. And I have to say, I hope that we can find someone to collaborate with. When I've been approached by staff members about their concerns about you leaving, I think that's the fear I would have. It's been a wonderful collaborative process across the district to tackle something that's really tough in a lot of different areas. And thank you for that. Not all leaders understand that it needs to be collaborative at times, and sometimes that's a great way to lead, is working with others and allowing everyone to feel important in certain ways. I really hope that we can take the next steps together and that you can help us on shining a light on the people here within the district that are going to be able to help to continue to move things forward and help us in looking at what our next opportunities may be, whether it's here or elsewhere. And I wish you nothing but much success and you know, wonderful things for you and your family. I do hope that you always stay in touch with us, because you've become like that family. You've helped Marlborough move forward in many ways in the roles that you've had, and you've helped us through some pretty tough times. So, thank you.
I know we're all emotional about this, and it's going to take some time to live with it for a little bit, but we are committed, and we are going to work together and choose our next leader. And whether that leader comes from within or from without, we don't know yet, but we will do it. And you know, you've set a high bar, so it helps to inform us. You know, being in this seat for as long as I have, I've kind of gone through this a few times. Didn't really think I was going to have to do it again, but hey, you know. And at previous junctures, we've had to do a lot of kind of soul searching on what are we looking for in a leader? What do we need? You know, how, you know, when things didn't go the way that we had hoped with previous folks in your position, then we had to stop and like analyze and figure out how to proceed. I don't feel like we need to do that. I feel like we have a pretty clear vision of where we're going, what we need to do, and that, you know, I'm feeling optimistic that we are going to find, you know, no one's going to fill your shoes in the same way you do, but we will find someone that will work with us in continuing the strong work that we're in the process of doing. So, Mr. Caruso.
I've got the shortest tenure with you, Mike, so I probably have the shortest speech. You're probably grateful for that.
Is your green light on?
It is.
Good. Okay.
My sixth sense as an educator always has me a little bit nervous when phone calls are coming from any kind of administrator, and it still sits there when I'm on the school committee. So when I saw Mike's email saying, please, can I give you a call later on, I got this kind of immediate feeling this was not going to be the kind of phone call that I was probably going to be happy to be getting this time of the year, but I do understand the phone call and the reasoning from Mike. Also, being an educator, you tend to have a little bit of skepticism when there's a person that you know whose education background is not quite as I don't know how to put it. I don't want to say it's not, I don't know how to put it. It's not quite the same as other administrators I work with over my career. But I can also tell you that I wish some of the other administrators with that background had worked half as hard as you did at your job. That's for sure. And you've worked at all aspects of the job. I've watched. The most thing I was kind of disappointed for you in one way, because I saw you do so much work to fill that gap as well as everything else, and I just felt like, well, now he's got all that experience and he has no place to put it. So we're hoping you're going to put it back here, leave it here. And I've enjoyed the few months we've been together. Months have been years now. Oh my God, this whole thing has gone by so fast. It seems like the only word I've ever heard come out of your mouth is COVID and pandemic. But I know there are other more deep thoughts in there, and I appreciate what you've accomplished right here. And we're definitely going to have to look a little long and hard as we go forward. That's for sure. But
Appreciate it.
Godspeed.
Mrs. Matthews.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep this together. And I'm gonna echo much of what was already said. I'm not gonna repeat it though. Mr. Caruso said something that I've thought long and hard about, which is, well, you had pointed out in your letter that your family has an educational background. Yours was a finance avenue, but you took it upon yourself to educate yourself, complement yourself with people around you, collaborate and listen and work not only with other administrators and staff, but with all of us. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Well, now I feel like I have to say something, so I'm just going to say ditto to what everybody else said.
But we're squeezing every little bit out of you until the end. Definitely.
I'll do my best.
Oh, wait. And any spelling bees or
Trivia
things that come up, you're still getting
have
the
to
phone
come back.
I know I'm not the one you really want
You're
there.
part of the team.
You're still the chicken. We're wearing the hats. We're still the chicks.
Okay. Any other members wishing to be heard?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:26.